That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. JV Wins Dogon SS once again. May the 6th, 2025. Hope everybody out there is having a good day. And if you are not having a good day, I hope that your tomorrow is better than your today. Uh, we are back. Conscious Approach on YouTube. Major shouts out to everybody who tunes in, checks in with us, kicks it with us, watches our videos, hits the like and subscribe button, follows along with the content, leaves those comments. We certainly appreciate you. Before we get things kicked off, a few disclaimers. As always, we are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just search Conscious Approach for the audio version of all of our live streams there. If you are not in the position to check us out on YouTube, just hit us up over there on those platforms. And if you're driving in the car, if you're otherwise unable to watch us in video form, you can check out the podcast version. Any way that you would like to get your podcast fix, any way that you would like to get your conscious approach fix,
that's right,
via video or podcast form, we just want to be available in all places possible. We are also now all available on TikTok. So if you're more active on that platform than any other place, just search us at Con Approach, CONAPPROACH. You can also engage with us in the content there as well. So let us know what you think. All full video uploads get added to our content library on TikTok. So anytime that there's a new development in terms of ways to be able to engage with the content, want to be sure to put that out there so that everyone is aware of what's going on. Otherwise, if this is your first time checking out what we like to do here and you have not already done so, if you are so inclined, please do subscribe to the channel so that you can get notifications whenever new content is published to the channel. This is how we do each and every week, each and every video upload. So whether you like what we have to say or hate what we have to say, we invite you to come along with us. Let us know how you feel. Let us know where you think we went right or wrong. We welcome the engagement. We do pay attention. So, yeah, man, other than that, we'll go ahead and get into the proceedings this evening. Got several interesting topics to kick around the lawn tonight. First up, we are going to discuss NBA veteran. Is Paul Pierce in the Hall of Fame yet?
I'll do a double check on that.
Okay, so yeah, he's definitely going in. I don't know if he's in or not yet. Yeah, fact check us on that. But Paul Pierce, he's a media personality. He's on Fox Sports every day. He's on that show with Joy Taylor and Keyshawn Johnson. They do. What's the name of that show? Speak. It's a sports show.
And it was 2021. He was inducted, bro.
Okay, so yeah, Hall of Famer Paul Pierce won a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008 against, at the time, the team that I was rooting for because of my favorite player, Kobe Bryant. And now he's a media personality. He talks sports on mainstream media outlets. He's on FS1 on the Speak Show with those other individuals that I just mentioned. But he also does his fair share of personal branding content-wise, and where he talks on other subjects besides sports. He routinely gives his opinions on personal issues, relationships, marriages, all of that good stuff. And that's pretty much what we're going to get into here. So this is Paul Pierce, not talking about basketball, the NBA, or sports, but rather talking about marriage. And Paul Pierce believes that marriage is pointless now. He doesn't think it makes any sense. He believes that marriage is for poor people and old people. That is what Paul Pierce believes. He believes marriage is for poor people and old people, and he believes that there is absolutely no upside whatsoever to marriage if you are a man. It is only upside if you are a woman. Now, the woman who is co-hosting this show with him appears to kick back on what it is that he has to say, but for the most part, he is just giving his opinion on how he believes that marriage is dumb and pointless and stupid, doesn't make sense for men, and it is for old people and brokies. So, these days, whenever we broach relationship/marriage topics on the channel, we're not necessarily covering new ground. It's pretty much the same talking points, but coming from the perspective of different individuals. And this time it happens to be Paul Pierce. So, first, we'll allow Paul Pierce to speak for himself, and then we will give our opinions on his views on the subject after we have played the clip.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like every relationship shouldn't be based off sex, but every relationship is based off of that.
I don't think so.
100%. You can't tell me nothing different. This is what I feel, and that's why I'll never be in another relationship because it's always based off of that.
So you're not going to be in another relationship?
Hell no. For what? Because it's going to be based off the sex. Once that wear down, you're going to go find somebody else that's better. Yeah. But it ain't going to be based off of. This is the thing, and listen carefully. Relationships. Let me tell you what marriage is all about. Or let me tell you what marriage is and who's marriage for. Marriage is for old people and poor people.
Okay, so let's get into that. Why?
Because when you broke, our parents, like my moms and all them, they married on a merit of like, okay, we're going to put our incomes together, have all these kids, and then when our kids, we're going to have 5, 10 kids back in the 60s, all them, they're going to have 5, 10 kids so they can work and bring income.
Yeah.
So you poor. So you married for that. And now when you get old, somebody that to be by your side to take care of you. Right now, my mom got married. My mom never been married in my lifetime. She got married when she was 70.
Wow.
It was perfect. She had somebody by her side the whole way through.
So do you...
I really believe that. Like, that's what, like, outside of that, it's no advantage to a man. Why is marriage an advantage? What advantage? What does it do for a man when things go south? Like, we gonna have to give up half our this, pay child support, but what do it's only advantageous to a woman. Like, it's real talk.
But what if you meet a woman and you're like, wow, she's a gem, she's valuable, she's everything, and I want to lock her down in marriage?
I don't want to lock no woman down. We could be cool.
So you're telling me right now today,
you
on January 4th, you do not want to be in a relationship ever again?
I don't think it's realistic long term until I turn 70.
I am done. I've never been more done with it.
I'm 47 right now. Until I turn 70, that's the only realistic part I see is because we both old. We ain't out in the streets. We at home watching TV. You go take me to the hospital. I'm going to take you to the hospital. That's it. So right now, I'm too cracking right now. So what do I need to
is it because you feel like...
All right, that was pretty much the end of it. This guy's invoking his inner DDG, talking about how he too popping. This is his inner DDG because he too popping to get married. Do you think that there's any sense to what he said?
Well, I mean, coming from his perspective and in his world, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for somebody like him. So, you know, kind of like no different than the Neo situation where that's what floats his boat. That's what motivates him. That's what keeps him going. And that's what gives him sanity at the end of the day. So there's some people that's cut a certain way, especially if you have large amounts of money. And in Paul Pierce's case, notoriety. Why would you turn that in according to these guys? Why would you turn that in for a marriage where, at least according to him, relationships are always based around, you know, the horizontal shuffle, and then so he doesn't see the need to want to marry somebody and then get the urge and cheat and, you know, lose all of that. So he's in a worldview and in a position to feel this way and execute it until he's 70. So this is how he chooses to live, and we saw how he chooses to live in his live stream. All right, so yeah, he's cracking right now. He got his old day 49. You know, hey, that's the new 39. So the way that he's looking at it, man, he's got some years and some dollars to trick off on these instas and, you know, take him for a spin. So that's what he's into, and that's how he chooses to live. So is this the gospel for every man? I will holla no. Even to touch on his point that it's for old people and broke people. Uh, from that angle, um, you know, he's in a position where he made millions of dollars, so he can afford to buy a cat. Like he can go, and pay for his mortgage, so he can go do that. So everybody else that live check to check, $500 away from a disaster, um, yeah, those people, yeah, it would behoove them whether they want to or not to get married. So I understand where he's coming from there, but I still think for an air quote broke person, it's still what floats your boat. If you're a broke person and you think like Paul Pierce, you better not get married. So I think it goes a multitude of ways, but I think this fits him. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Paul Pierce around here dropping some levels of gospel, I would assume, or do you disagree?
I agree and disagree at the same time. I think he's speaking from his perspective, you know. And again, let me just reiterate real quick. Obviously, anyone who is familiar with what we do here on this channel, we're not talking about anything new. But what I like to do whenever I bring up topics that cover the same subject area is I like to do it whenever it's an individual. I like to do it based upon the different individuals who give us their perspective so that we can comment on that. I'm just personally fascinated by human pathology. And I think that it is important for us to always maintain awareness of the pathology inherent in the individuals who are giving us their perspective instead of being fooled into believing that that's the general consensus because context does matter. So, for an individual such as Paul Pierce, as you suggested, I agree and disagree. Now, the whole point about marriages for broke people and old people, I don't like that because it's dismissive towards people who aren't rich, and I just feel some type of way about this social climate that we have, where we're very quick to dismiss people who aren't top 10 percenters or top 1 percenters as, oh, okay, well, because you're not making millions of dollars a year, you're relegated to the bottom barrel of living this uneventful life that is full of a lack of excitement. And that's the kind of tone that I pick up from people with those kinds of talking points. Furthermore, specifically when it comes to age, he may think that way, but that doesn't explain the many, many individuals who are rich, who are successfully married. If what he was saying was a blanket statement across the board, then no one who was rich, who was a man, would be getting married. Yet we, of course, know that that is not the case. There are plenty of married men in the world who are financially self actualized, and they furthermore don't see an issue or struggle with the prospect or the reality of being married. So we already know that we can debunk specifically what he talked about. But at the same time, I can also say from his particular perspective, he is right. He's kind of simultaneously right and wrong. He's right and wrong at the same time. All everything that I just said explains why I disagree with him. However, I also agree with him because when you live the kind of life that he lives and you speak from the perspective that he speaks from, it doesn't behoove you to get married. We're talking about a guy who went live. We're talking about a guy who went live on social media while being employed by ESPN, having a stripper party. Um, you know, Now the smoking and the drinking and the playing cards, I don't think that's what got him fired from ESPN. It was the strippers that got him fired from, from ESPN. He lives that kind of life. When your when your engagement with women is women who are for sale, when it's sex workers, strippers, Instagram chicks, chicks who do corn, chicks who do OnlyFans, when those are the women that you are pursuing, then of course you should not consider being married, because those, from a profile standpoint, are perhaps the absolute worst women to consider for marriage. No man should ever consider marrying a woman whose business it is to leverage herself physically for money, from men for attention. When sex is your business, when male attention and validation is your business, considering an individual such as that for marriage is not wise, because you never know if and or when that woman is going to decide to put herself back up for sale, if she feels as though she can trade up, because you're no longer sustaining or satiating whatever it is that she requires from a lifestyle standpoint or from an anything else standpoint. So when, as a man, your reality is engaging with women like that, and those are pretty much exclusively the women that you're dealing with, it's smart to not consider marriage, because that would be the dumbest thing that you can do. You will be extracted for resources. It won't go well. If you went so far as to getting married, you will ultimately lose half your stuff, if not more. If you had a child with this woman, you're going to end up giving more than half your stuff, because when you factor in the child support, it's actually more than half. So it ain't smart. And all he has to do is look at other professional athletes as an example as to why that's not smart. Don't be Zion Williamson. Don't be don't be Tyreek Hill. Don't be a lot of these idiots who fancy the same kind of women that Paul Pierce fancies, but they were dumb enough to believe that marriage was a good idea when you're dealing with women like that. Marriage is only for women who are off the grid. It is not for women who are for sale. You said that he shops for women at a grocery, like I analogize it to shopping at a grocery store. When you are dealing with women like that, it is just like going to a grocery store. You're shopping for items at a grocery store and you're paying for them at a register. Chicks like these, you're shopping for them just like a grocery store and you're paying for them. And any good or service that you pay for can be repackaged and resold to someone else who's willing to pay for it. That is not someone whom you should consider for marriage. So long as Paul Pierce is living that kind of reality, what he is saying from his perspective is correct. Go ahead and just do your thing. I don't know where he's getting this whole 70 thing from. Now, I'm assuming he's being tongue in cheek with that, which is fine. He probably just means, generally speaking, when you get old. But I mean, I don't know. Old rich men have, to me, old rich men have stuff to lose too, just like young rich men. So I don't think you should consider marriage, period, if you fancy exclusively dealing with women who leverage themselves for sale as if they were a good or a service. So as long as that is the way that he chooses to go about dealing with women, what he is saying is spot on. But that is, of course, his perspective. It is not the perspective of everyone else who does not come from that reality.
Yeah, and we say this. And I know I say it enough when we're talking about these dudes that do have cash, and like you said, that are in the positions like the Zions and the others, but they do it the way where they're getting caught up in foolishness and having money extracted from them. So the argument always would be, at least from my side, is why even do it? So I think what Paul was doing here, and the reason why I found it so comical, is that he's so matter of fact about things at this point, at least this topic. He came there looking matter of fact with his robe on. He's going to do him apparently right now. And if you don't like how he feels about it, tough. So it may not come across well to people who want to hear things softly, but he came straight at you with how he looks at it. And so in a more direct way, if you will, he pretty much surmised what I was saying in previous videos on why guys with certain levels of bags would even think about getting married, if it's so risky, So even if they're not the Insta slores and they figure that they got them a good one, and then they married her, and they were married for 8 years, got 2 kids out of it. Now she's calling for divorce and alimony. And so he didn't get off Instagram, and so athletes are going through that. So yeah, it doesn't make sense, but especially as you mentioned, though, it's just all about your mindset as a person. How are you going about this? How are you doing these things? So, yeah, I get where he's coming from. I think he's just real matter of fact about it. So
Yeah.
it comes off, elitist. But yeah, man, if I said that and then somebody literally articulates it, I can't, I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying I'm not either. But you can't be upset when you actually hear how it sounds. You don't like how it sounded. That's what you just asked for.
Yeah.
So Paul Pierce is doing what I ask these athletes to do. You kind of don't want to hear it, but it's true. And so long as he's got more cash than others, uh, it doesn't serve him. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It is not practical for guys in their position to get married. They have far too much to lose. But again, there are several other examples of pro athletes who are successful in marriage. So I personally, in my opinion, it's more of a social environment, upbringing factor than anything else. If you come up in a particular ecosystem, which dictates that you are susceptible to making suspect decisions when it comes to women, then when you come into money, it is advised that you steer clear of anything that can cause you to risk everything that you work to earn. If you didn't come up in such an ecosystem and you're kind of a little more balanced and subdued with the way that you kind of interact with and deal with women and the kind of women that you pursue, I don't think that it's the death nail that it can be for other pro athletes. I think it's on an individual case basis. But for people like Paul Pierce, he's right. So I'm not mad at him. I just think that that's a message that people who are more cut from the Paul Pierce cloth need to heed. And it's not necessarily a message that people who aren't cut from that cloth should heed. And like I've said this before, I don't know, I won't speak for women because I'm not a woman. Although I would imagine that this is true, I will speak from the perspective of being a man because I am one. Um, Men know when they are built for marriage. We all know. Every man knows whether you're built for this or not. All right. And whether you have money or not, you know that it's a part of who you are to be built for it. It's like alcohol. Like alcohol is a magnifier for your already innate behavioral characteristics. If you're a loose cannon already before you start drinking, when you start drinking, your penchant for being a loose cannon is going to get worse. It's going to be amplified. As a man, we already know when we're built for that. When we're built for that relationship stuff, we're built for this marriage stuff. We already know whether we are built for that or not. Money aside. So when you come into money, your money is merely going to amplify your base innate behavioral characteristics, in my opinion. I feel like we are who we are. If you're built for this and you're built for that long term stuff, and you're built for being with a woman and building marriage and family and doing all of that, you were probably likely like that before you came into money. So money is going to just better facilitate your ability to acquire it. But if you are somebody who's for the streets, you were for the streets before you came into money. Money is not going to turn someone who wasn't for the streets into someone who is, or vice versa. That's how I see it, in my opinion. I kind of feel like we are who we are. And so when you know that you're cut from that cloth, you shouldn't do it. Which means also when you come into money, now coming into money, that does not mean, okay, well, now I came into money, so now is my time to start considering this. No, if you wasn't considering it before, don't start considering it now. That's hustling backwards. Just keep doing what you're doing, ride it out. And if you never get it out of your system, if you never reach that epiphany, if you never have that light bulb moment in which you decide marriage is for you, then it just isn't for you. It just isn't for you. And if you're still someone who wants to be like a father or a parent, despite not wanting to be married to anybody, then you're going to have to consider whatever measures you need to consider in order to make that happen for yourself outside of getting married. But don't convolute the situation by thinking you have to enter into this contract just to sort of fulfill some of these other innate desires that you have. We all know who we are as men, and if you're not built from it, steer clear. And that's the only place where I will remove the money factor from the situation, because I feel like money, similar to alcohol, is an amplifier. If you were built for this beforehand, you're going to be built for it when you get money. And if you weren't built for it beforehand, you're still not going to be built for it when you get money. And for someone such as Paul Pierce, before he came into money, I would imagine he was for the streets. You know, so at least he's self-aware, and now that he's into money and continues to be into money, he knows I'm for the streets. That's not my life. The issue is guys who confuse the situation by knowing they're for the streets, come into money, and then they somehow try to fit square pegs in round holes, find out that it doesn't fit, and now they're being extracted into perpetuity. That is very unfortunate, yet far too many men in those positions make that mistake. Listen to the inner voice, know who you are, and act accordingly.
Yeah, man. Well said, bro. So, yeah, I didn't know Paul Pierce was such a character. I know he's a character, but this level of Paul Pierce, I've never seen it before. So this was quite entertaining. I appreciate it, Paul. So, hey, man, anytime you're doing anything now, whether you're on Speak or doing anything else, man, I want to see that Paul Pierce. The uncut, the unfiltered one. Because this was a joy to watch. I got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, I knew he was a character when he got fired from ESPN.
Yeah, but that was a wild video, bro. You got a corporate ass job and you streaming like that.
Like his I don't care was on 99 at that moment.
Oh, man.
Hey, shouts out to Paul Pierce, man. He was a great player. I hated his guts because of who he played for. But talk about Paul Pierce was Luka before Luka. You know, not athletic, not explosive, but can still just get his shot off whenever he wants and score at will. It was crazy.
Crazy.